And
we are live, back in the studio.
Oh yeah!
Woo, get it pumped up. It's ballot time.
Two guys.
Ballot time.
Two guys, one ballot.
2 beers.
Here for one special episode we like to call Ballot to the Current.
If you haven't followed our YouTube channel, check it out. 2 guys, 1 ballot. We do a series there called Ballot to the Future, which was a forward look at all of these very exciting initiatives that you guys all have on your ballots, which is 3 pages of stuff to vote on, back and front.
Back and front. This is a lot of text.
It's a lot of text.
If you're a slow reader like me,
get a beer.
You might never finish.
You might not finish before 2021. So these ballots, you have them now. We're going to go through the ballot today in order that it will appear in your ballot.
You ready, Denver, Colorado?
We're going to do Colorado first. There are a number of Colorado measures, and then we're going to do the Denver specific measures, right?
That's right.
Okay, not that you know, but
of course.
That's the
plan.
So we're not going to do candidates in this video. We're just going to do the direct democracy items. So all that stuff where you can vote for Kanye West and whatnot. Did you see that Kanye actually made the ballot?
Oh, he's on this one?
He's on it.
I saw there was a queen or a princess.
There's a princess, Princess Khadija someone. But anyway, we're not getting into any of that. We're just doing ballot measures. We're going to get into the nitty gritty. We're going to get into the stuff that's like, dense. Yeah, the stuff that's harder and dense. So, but if you want to know more about any of these items, like if we don't really cover the issue in enough depth for you, I promise you our YouTube channel has videos with more depth that really dive into these topics. Too much depth, probably. So this will be like the lighter version. But, so, if you want to play along with us, just go ahead and get your bingo card, ballot. Get your ballot, and we're going to start from the top. And I think we should just dive right into it.
I'm already lost. I might be using your ballot.
That's
I'm voting for you.
No, I'm not running. We're going to start off with Measure 2B. This is a constitutional amendment in Colorado, and it is the repeal of Gallagher. Is that right? Is that what 2B is? Sasha doesn't know, but I do. Don't worry. It's right there. Repeal of Gallagher. Sasha, if you've been around Colorado politics for a while, you've heard about the Gallagher Amendment.
Everybody's complaining. Boo, boo, boo. Tabor, boo, 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 Gallagher.
What is the Gallagher Amendment?
All right, so Dennis Gallagher, he's this guy. I think he lives in Castle Rock. He's still alive and politically active. Put this thing out in the 70s or 80s.
It was a movement in the anti-tax movement in the 70s. He passed it in the 80s.
So it says that the state of Colorado, statewide, will set a certain tax rate on real property, and 55% of all taxes of real property will be collected from businesses.
From, non-residential real property.
Non-residential real property, so businesses. 45% will be collected from residences.
And the rate on business real property, on non-residential real property, will be fixed. And so that means, essentially, you have to adjust the residential real property rate every year so that the residential taxes never equal more than 45% of the total real property tax pool. So basically, it's a way of fixing the revenues between non-residential property and residential property in terms of taxes, right?
Yeah. It creates a bit of a mess because we don't have, not every county has a 45-55 split of residential to business property. Some counties have 95% residences in terms of taxable value and 5% businesses. So those 5% of businesses have to pay 55% of that county's real property tax rate, which is hugely punishing for those businesses.
Well, but hang on. There was already a division like that when this was passed, right? So in the early 80s when this came about, there were already some counties with a lot more residential or a lot more commercial real property. So why is it a problem?
I don't know. It's probably more exacerbated now that people can work remote and order stuff online.
I was going to say, I think what most supporters of Gallagher repeal, the people who are pro 2B, would say is the mix of real property between residential and non-residential has changed over time. So it's not that...
Statewide,
it's changed a lot. And locally it's changed a lot, right? So in Denver, for example, we have a lot more residential real property to be taxed. And that causes the statewide bucket of residential real property taxes, which can only be 45% of the 100% of the total state real property tax budget. So Denver's additional residential real property to be taxed, it causes the statewide residential real property tax assessment rate to go down.
I feel like I said that, but in a way more clear and concise way.
You guys tell us in the comments who was more clear and concise. But the point is, this is creating sort of an imbalance where it's forcing the statewide residential real property tax assessment rate to go down, which has differing impacts. So for places outside of Denver, especially where their tax rate on residential property is being pushed down and down, it's harder and harder for their local governments to raise taxes. So the real impact of that is it's harder for their local governments to fund schools and fire departments and other local county measures using local real property taxes, and either those programs go unfunded or the local county has to pull money from the state general fund to fund the programs.
Yeah, so the state general fund has been paying a much larger proportion of the county school budget than they were in the 80s as a consequence of this. Let's get down.
It used to be that local property taxes would fund like 2/3 of schools.
Yeah,
and school funding. Yeah.
Now it's like 1/3 or something like that.
It's gone down and down and down because it's harder and harder to raise local real property taxes. But the people who are against repealing 2B, the people who are for keeping the Gallagher Amendment, who say no on 2B, I mean, their arguments are the same that they've always been, which is, you really want the state out there taxing you more without any protection? You really want the legislature to be able to decide, let's jack up the prices on the tax rate on residential real property? Don't we, the voters, need some sort of protection against that? Shouldn't we be telling the state, there's no way you can change the assessment rate if you're going to tax residential people at some higher proportion of their taxable value than non-residential commercial property?
You all know, maybe you don't know, I'm a fan of Tabor personally. I'm not a fan.
What was Tabor?
I thought we were doing the short version.
Okay, we're doing the short version, but Tabor is a
watch the long version.
The Tabor basically says to increase taxes over a certain amount, the government needs voter approval in Colorado.
Yeah. This is one of the more bipartisan supported measures that you're going to be voting on. The former state GOP chairman supports removing Gallagher, and there's a lot of Republicans that support this. Not all, but it's not unanimous. There's a certain number of Republicans that do support this. Russell, how are you going to vote on 2B?
I'm going to say vote yes, repeal Gallagher, because I think it needs to be easier for local counties to be able to raise taxes from their real property and fund their local things.
I'm going to vote yes. I have a more nuanced view that I present in our video on YouTube, but too many legislators have basically said this is making it impossible to govern. We need to have some flexibility in how we do this. So I'm yes on 2B as well.
All right, so that's 2B. Mark down a yes. Let's go ahead and flip to our next item.
Before you guys move on to the next one.
Do we have questions or comments?
Comments, can you push your mic closer to you? Since we can't do that, maybe you guys can speak up.
Well, speak up. How about that?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Who was that?
I don't know. Okay, keep going.
All right.
We got bingo.
Bingo. I love bingo.
All right. So this is probably one of the most absurd things that you'll be voting on. But did you know the rules about bingo in Colorado and raffles are actually enshrined in our state constitution? So to change the rules about bingo and raffles in Colorado, it requires the voters to approve a constitutional amendment. So Sasha, what are the rules today about running bingo, constitutionally approved bingo in Colorado?
Yes, constitutionally approved bingo. You need to be a nonprofit for 5 years.
To run a bingo.
That is if you're not a casino. If you're a casino, you can do bingo however you like because you pay casino taxes. If you're not a casino, you need to be a nonprofit for 5 years, and whoever runs that bingo game cannot get paid to run bingo.
Okay, so the two rules are you need to be around for 5 years, and you can't pay your bingo operator. But Sasha, what about those rockstar bingo operators out there who gotta make money?
They gotta get paid!
So this rule says, instead of 5 years, okay, if your nonprofit's been around for 3 years, we'll allow that. You can run bingo. And if you're a bingo operator, and you're a rockstar bingo operator, you can get paid a certain amount of money. How much can they make, Sasha?
Minimum wage! Up to
minimum wage. All right, so I don't see any big deal with this one. I say vote yes on Amendment C.
Yes on bingo.
All right, yes on bingo. All right, so next up, you can see my nice little taping here. I had the snafu in the technical. Don't worry about that. We have Amendment 76, which is the Citizenship Requirement for Voting Amendment. And what this amendment does is...
Nothing. It does absolutely nothing.
It modifies, it slightly tweaks the language in the Constitution that says right now, each citizen shall have the right to vote. Instead, it's going to say only a citizen shall have the right to vote. But the trick is, actually, only citizens have the right to vote in Colorado anyway. So that's all. It's already the law.
I am going to vote no on this as a symbolic middle finger to the anti-immigrant sentiments that this
right. It has no legal effect, but it bears sentiments of people saying keep those non-citizens out of control in our state, right?
Yeah, there is some interesting historical facts in our YouTube video that we cover, because if you imagine early America, people that came here, most of them weren't citizens. So how did they vote?
That's right.
How did that whole system
there wasn't even like for like the first 100 years of American history plus, there was barely a concept of a citizen.
What is a citizen?
People were like, I don't know. And when the rules around citizenship were actually put into place, it was when there started to be non-European immigrants coming to America. They started putting rules up around, maybe we should have a citizenship system. Yeah. So to the framers of the Constitution, like, this was sort of an absurdity. Their idea was, if you're taxed, you're represented.
Oh, yeah.
If you're paying taxes, then no taxation without representation. That was like their tagline, right? So to them, the idea that you could be living somewhere and be taxed and functioning there, but you just had no input on the government, like, that wasn't...
Russell, you're giving away all the good stuff from YouTube.
Go watch our YouTube video. This is a stupid thing. This was put on there to get people fired up about immigration. Vote no on this just to punish the people who put it on there, but it really doesn't matter. All right, so next up we got Amendment 77.
Don't fight your uncle on that one, because it doesn't actually matter.
Yeah. If anybody wants to argue about Amendment 76, just go do something else with your day. 77 is about gambling. And Sasha promised me that he was really good. He was all knowledgeable about this one. This is Black Hawk and other counties where gambling is legal in Colorado.
Yes. Right now, in Black Hawk, you can play blackjack, you can play poker.
Poker?
Not poker. That's a different game. You play that at my house. Poker, you can play in Black Hawk, and
there's a bet limit.
There's a bet. It's $100.
$100 bet limit.
Yeah. So this is going to allow them to set their own bet limits and play whatever games they want.
And it's going to allow them, to play different games, which I think is probably them trying to say they want to get into stuff closer to sports betting, right?
Competitive war.
Yeah. I mean, right now you can't play gambling Yahtzee, or what other games might they introduce?
Monopoly.
Gambling Monopoly is not permitted in Black Hawk. But this will give the counties more flexibility. They'll be able to charge more, or not charge more. You'll be able to bet more. The bet limits will go up. But Sasha, like, do you have any arguments against this, or are you all for it? You're all for it.
Yeah. Why wouldn't we do this?
I mean, the question is gambling a good ththing, right? Do we really want to be like encouraging that industry in Colorado? There's lots of different things we could do to create jobs or create opportunities here, but like. We want to have like a Reno, Nevada, right outside of Denver. Is that healthy for us?
Well, if someone wants to bet, aren't they just going to do it online or go to Vegas or Reno?
Which is the truth, right? So the whole idea of local gambling restrictions is sort of falling apart.
I think
everything can be done online.
Frontier flights to Vegas are like $29.
You gotta speak up.
Frontier flights to Vegas, only $29.
Frontier can't hear you. Say it again. Is Frontier still in business?
Frontier, please pay.
All right, so 77. I say vote yes. Who cares?
Vote yes. Let's do it.
Get some more tax revenue from gambling, so that's great. All right, Proposition EE, tobacco tax. Sasha, what does Proposition EE do?
EE does. This one is going to do two things. For the first time ever, it will tax vape. You know those people that look really cool? You're out there. You might be vaping while you're watching this. Unfortunately, if this passes, you're going to have to pay higher for your vape.
But we pause on that. So right now, e-cigarette products are not subject to sin tax. Like there's no tobacco tax on e-cigarette products, only on actual physical tobacco.
That's right. The second thing that it'll do is it'll raise the price on cigarettes, and I don't know.
Raise the tax on cigarettes.
Yeah, well, raise the tax.
Yeah.
And then
By
it's
$2.
$2. It's like not
Right?
per. Is that per cigarette?
I'll help Sasha out. It's right now. It's 83 cents a pack of cigarette tax, and this will take it all the way up to $2.83 a pack. So it's going to be a major increase on the tax on cigarettes, right?
What are they going to do with all that green?
Well, most of it is going to go into education, and the key point in the education part of the spending is it's going to fund the governor's preschool program, which I think you're a fan of, right?
Russell, do you hate preschoolers?
I don't hate preschoolers. Why?
Is that why you're
Sasha,
going
do
to
you like preschoolers?
I am pro-education. Russell, are you anti-education?
Just tell them about the preschool program.
I don't know that much about it.
Okay. Do you know anything about it?
Yeah, so the governor said all pre-K childhood education will be free and available to every child statewide, because what those kids learn in that first year of education basically can set them apart for the rest of their lives.
There's increasing amounts of data coming out showing that early childhood education, that is like pre-kindergarten education especially, is actually really impactful on education outcomes for the kids.
That's when they learn how to speak and identify colors.
Yeah.
Can you imagine not learning colors?
I'm colorblind, so.
Can you? That was a good slam.
That's not an educational problem.
Look how dumb Russell is.
Okay, so let's talk about Proposition EE some more. So Proposition EE, it's a cigarette tax. I'm all for funding education. You know I'm for funding education. The last time we sat here and did a video in this room was 2017 or whenever we had that, or 2018, when there was an income tax to fund education in the state. So I'm all for funding education. I just think that smokers are the wrong people to try to push our education funding needs onto. I got two reasons. One, smokers are not particularly high-income group of people on the whole. So 2/3 of smokers are in households that make like $50,000 or less. 1/3 of smokers are in households below the poverty line. That's not the right people, I think, to try to push our education taxes onto. But secondly, if this works, less people will smoke. And the money for governor's preschool program that Sasha loves so much so the kids can learn their colors, it's going to go down and down and down. And then later we're going to end up either with a funding deficit, which, you know, governments have those all the time, or two, we're going to end up canceling the program because we came up with an unstable funding source for it. So why would we use this, of all the possible measures to fund the very valued programs that you are for, why would we fund it with this tax source?
Well, Russell, you're wrong. No, you're right, but you're wrong. Look, is this the best way to fund education? I don't know, probably not.
What do you mean probably not? You think possibly yes?
What? Are you Donald Trump now in this debate? Is that what's happening? You're just going to interrupt me every 2 minutes?
Wrong! Speak up.
Shut up, man!
Will you shut up, man? Malarkey.
Okay, so Russell's saying, look at how this thing works. It's not right. It's not moral. I'm saying, look at the outcomes. It's going to make smoking more expensive, therefore less smoking in the state, and it's going to spend that money on learning colors and really important stuff for little kids. So while I might not be satisfied with how we're getting there, I like the outcome. I do agree that at some point you're going to have to change the funding source because there are fewer and fewer smokers, but maybe vapors will make up the difference. Who am I to say?
All right. When we did our YouTube video dives into this, I mean, we have like 15 minutes of discussion or something on this in our YouTube video.
Yeah.
So if you want to deep dive on this, check out our YouTube video on 2 Guys, 1 Ballot. In the video, I voted yes, but I've actually since changed my position. I'm a no vote on this. So I say vote no.
What a flip-flop. I'm a yes, and I'm probably going to convert Russell back to a yes before he like signs off on his ballot.
Unlikely. All right, moving on. Moving right along, we have Proposition 113, the national popular vote. And buckle your seatbelts, ladies and gentlemen, because this is one of the most exciting history lessons of all time. All right, so this is about keep the Electoral College or move to a new system for picking the President of the United States where we just vote for the President and then we just count up the votes and then whoever got the most votes, they won.
But we still keep the Electoral College.
Yes, technically we do. So why don't you tell them how this thing works? How does the Electoral College work? Let's start with that.
All right, the Electoral College is like this. Every state has the number of House reps plus 2 for the number of electors.
Wait, stop.
Too much?
Well,
Oh,
the
plus
Electoral
7.
College is a big body,
Yeah.
right, that picks the president, and each state gets to pick a certain number of electors.
Yeah.
The number of electors that each state gets is equal to number of
House reps plus 2 senators plus 2 for why not?
So no, it's number of House reps plus 2 senators.
Why not?
There you go. Why not? So Colorado, right?
9.
We have 9. That means we have 7 House reps, 7 representatives in the House of Representatives, and then we have 2 senators, like every other state. And so we have a total of 9 electors. And so every state has a number like that, right? And we pick our electors. So if Donald Trump wins Colorado, then all 9 of our electors will go to Washington and vote for Donald Trump, and then whoever has the most electors, right, wins the presidency.
Yeah, but it wasn't always like that. It used to be that the state would choose electors, and each state could do it differently. In New York, the legislature choose the electors. It wasn't even up to the voters.
I think in a bunch of the early colonies it was like that, where you wouldn't even vote for president. Your legislature would just pick who your electors were for you.
Yeah, and the electors were supposed to be wise old men who were capable of making this decision for you because they wouldn't succumb to the populist nature of, I don't know, advertisements in this back then.
I mean, but it's funny if you think about like how much foresight the framers had, right? It's like we live in a world today where populists on both sides of the aisle, people who really get the people fired up and promise them things that they really want, but may or may not actually be qualified to govern. Like that's actually become the leading trend in our politics today.
That's right. But at some point we kind of subverted the original plan of the Electoral College because every state then went to a point where the voters would choose who the electors were, and for some period of time the electors could still vote for whoever they wanted. But then each state made it illegal for the electors to vote for whoever they wanted. They called them faithless electors.
So today the way it works is we vote for our candidate for president. We pick electors who have already promised to vote for whatever candidate wins, and then those electors actually have to vote for the candidates. So the Electoral College, all this could be summed up like this. The Electoral College had an interesting original design. That is not how the Electoral College works today, and the framers would probably not really recognize the Electoral College the way that it actually functions. Would you say that's fair?
That's fair. So if anybody out there is like, hey, we shouldn't desecrate the memory of the founders or something, that's not the case. It's not the way they thought it was going to work at all.
Yeah. You know how I know you work in venture capital?
How?
I always call them the framers, and you just go with the founders. All right, so
if the early shareholders saw what was going on, they would have for sure.
Okay, but let's talk about what 113 does. 113 is going to say, get rid of that whole Electoral College thing, okay? Colorado's electors, our electors, are not going to vote for whoever wins in our state. They're going to vote for whoever wins the national popular vote. But that's not going to kick into effect until enough states all promise to do the same thing, where basically we can override the Electoral College by having all the electors go to the national popular vote winner without ever needing to amend the Constitution to remove the Electoral College.
I feel like when you say override the Electoral College, it's not the case, because each state chooses how its electors vote. And in this case, we're just saying, instead of doing it this one way, we're going to make our electors vote the way of the national popular vote.
That's true.
We're still operating within the construct of the Electoral College.
We'll absolutely still retain the electoral. Shoot, sorry. Wow, that was like a loop of time there. We'll still retain the Electoral College, right? But it's just that the national popular vote winner will get the electoral votes instead of state by state.
Yeah, so the way the people who wrote this are super clever, because they said there's no risk in you approving this because it doesn't kick in unless a whole lot of other states go for the same thing. They need states representing 270 electoral college votes to all agree to the same thing.
Yeah.
I think this is genius. I'm voting yes on it.
Yeah.
It makes a whole lot of sense to me.
I'd say vote yes too. And guys, we have a whole video. We have 2 videos on the popular vote on our YouTube channel. So go check them out. They have lots of really good detail here. And there's lots of good considerations about why or why not you might want to retain the Electoral College. But to us, to me anyway, the bottom line is the Electoral College is convoluted, and today it really has nothing to do with the way that the framers designed it, and it's time to just move to a national popular vote system.
I don't understand why this board of director has so many share classes.
Okay, we're going to keep moving. Yeah, because we have to, right? We have a lot of things to get through. And today, what is Proposition 114?
Woo!
Wolves!
Wolves. All right,
We're
so
going to talk about wolves,
I'm going to
guys.
give you the shortcut on wolves.
Hang on. Well, can you just tell them what? Yeah, tell them what it is first.
Yeah.
Also, do you want another beer?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
One day, we killed all the wolves because they're eating our cows and chickens and puppies. So wolves are bad, and ranchers don't like wolves. Very understandably so. So we kind of like, finished off the wolves. And then the wolves were brought back in Montana, and they still live in Wyoming, and then there's people who like wolves.
So Colorado used to have wolves. We killed all the wolves around in the early 1900s to get rid of them because they were eating livestock. Now we don't have any wolves.
Now no wolves. And this bill is to reintroduce artificially wolves into Colorado.
So Proposition 114 will say Colorado Parks and Wildlife people go get wolves, bring them into the state of Colorado, reintroduce them. And also, it says, if the wolves eat livestock,
Yeah.
then pay the ranchers for the livestock that the wolves ate.
Cover the cost of the cow.
Cover the cost of the cow. So,
I don't like it.
why don't you like it, Sasha? Well, hang on. First of all, do you like wolves? Yes or no?
I don't like wolves.
You do like wolves. Wolves are pretty sweet.
I lied.
You don't like wolves?
No.
Sasha doesn't like wolves. Okay. Well, why don't you like wolves?
They're mean.
They're kind of scary.
They're scary, they're mean,
Yeah.
and like if the ranchers don't like them, let me ask you this, Russell. Why don't we reintroduce wolves on your street in Denver? You want that?
No, I don't want that.
No? Okay, so first thing that's wrong with this bill is it's like a bunch of people from Denver saying, yeah, we want wolves where those other people live. Because we're not reintroducing wolves to Denver. It's like in Grand Junction or something like that. So this is just like unfair, first of all.
Okay, so the first point you're saying is this will bring wolves back to Colorado, but not anywhere that where most of the people live, and the few people who do live in the places where the wolves are going to go.
They're like, please, we don't want any wolves.
Are going to get wolves forced upon them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like, and it's not even like we're not going to go there for like the wolf petting zoo. Like we will never see these wolves. They are the only ones that will ever interact with these wolves because they're going to like eat their dogs.
Okay, all right, that's point 1.
Yeah.
Is that the only point, or are there more points?
No, there's more points. There's already wolves. So since we recorded our video, there's actually evidence that Colorado CPW, the Colorado, what is it?
Parks and Wildlife people.
Yeah, those people. They already said, hey, we found some wolves here. So the wolves are naturally moving down
From Wyoming.
from Wyoming, and they're here. It's just like, there's not a lot of them, so they're hard to find. And then there's a third reason.
What's the third reason?
Well, I don't want to pay the ranchers for their animals getting killed. This is like it's like natural business risk of being a rancher, and ranchers like do what you do, please do it well, but I'm sorry, I just don't want to pay for your animals.
Okay, so the argument for wolves. Now I'm going to make my best argument for
Oh, it's so dumb.
biodiversity.
Don't you understand biodiversity?
No, the idea is this: there are these elk that have no natural predators, and the elk eat all this grass down by the riverbank. And without having a predator there to eat the grass, it basically has too much grass getting eaten, and then there can't be like beavers and other things that need the grass to live down by the water, and then there's less biodiversity after some time. That's the argument, right?
It's vote no on wolves. Let's move on.
Oh, you can't move on already. I got a conspiracy theory to push.
Oh yeah, what you got?
My conspiracy theory is because there's already wolves back in Colorado, this measure is not going to do anything in terms of reintroducing wolves. We already have wolves, and it's been reported. So there's already wolves here. What if this is just the ranchers trying to get a fund in place for themselves to get paid every time their cows get eaten, and they're hiding behind like an environmental thing, but really they just want the money.
Well, you heard him say it. It's a conspiracy theory, and it's not the dumbest one you've heard this year, but it's, you know,
It's pretty dumb.
it's pretty dumb.
It's pretty dumb. That's probably not what's happening. I say vote no on this too because we should either leave. One or two people should decide this. The Parks and Wildlife people should decide it. If they think it's a good idea for nature, then they should just decide it, and this shouldn't be for the voters. Two, if not the Parks and Wildlife people, then the local people in those places where the wolves would actually live should be the ones deciding whether they introduce wolves or not. I would be very, very mad if some people in a not different part of Colorado put wolves in City Park. I'd be very upset about that.
Yeah, we're next year we're gonna reintroduce bears to Wash Park.
The Tiger Reintroduction Act. Yeah, so we say vote no on this.
But I do think it is funny. Like, I bet Wolverines like used to live in Wash Park or something.
We should find out.
Yeah.
We should find out. All right,
Okay.
moving on. So you've heard more than you ever wanted to hear about wolves. Oh man, we have this transition move here.
Abortion. Ooh,
All right.
this is a fun one.
So this is Colorado's 22-week abortion ban. So this is saying if there are women who are pregnant and you're past 22 weeks of pregnancy, which is, how many months is that?
5.5.
5.5 months, then you can't get an abortion. It'll be illegal for a physician to perform an abortion on you, punishable by a misdemeanor. Not to the
mother, but to the
doctor, which we think also might equate to like losing their medical license, right?
Correct.
So the doctor will basically, this could be like a career-ending event if the doctor performs an abortion after 22 weeks, unless the mother's life is at stake, right?
Yes.
So let's do the pro argument first.
Pro argument is that if you believe that abortion is immoral and there should be less abortion, this will achieve slightly less abortion.
It will restrict everybody agrees there are very few abortions that happen.
Very, very few abortions after 22.
But it will restrict the ability for those abortions to happen. People arguing the pro side might also say, well, this is in line with a number of other states. The 22-week ban is what a number of other states have established as a norm, and the reason for that norm is there have been instances of fetuses surviving after 22 weeks, but before 22 weeks, there aren't any instances of a fetus being born that early, that prematurely, and surviving. So this is our line for the fetus could survive on its own. Any other pro arguments we should capture?
No.
Okay, so let's transition to the con arguments on this one. You want to kick it off, or am I going to kick it off?
Yeah, I'll kick it off. The allowed reasons for having an abortion after 22 weeks is very, very narrow. It's only if the mother's life is at immediate risk.
Meaning if this baby would be born and it could paralyze the mother or cause her serious, lasting physical trauma or something like that, an abortion would not be permitted, right?
Abortion would not be permitted. Also, if the child's life is at risk.
Meaning if this child would be born without the necessary organs to survive.
That's right. I briefly interviewed one OBGYN and said, what instances have you seen where an abortion happens this late? And she told me the only time that she's ever seen it in her career was when the child was going to be born with some kind of medical condition that made its bones so brittle that if the doctor were to hold it, it would likely break the baby's bones.
There also aren't any exceptions for people who, for example, are at 23 weeks getting out of a relationship of domestic abuse, or maybe somebody raped them and they're finally breaking free from that person, and now they want to make the choice to have an abortion of the baby. So there's no exception for anything like that, for incest, for any of these sort of control relationship type abortion scenarios where you might want to have flexibility for the mother to make that decision late in her pregnancy. Sasha, how are you going to vote on this?
I'm going to vote no on this. There's very few of these abortions that occur, and I think that an abortion this late is probably quite damaging to the mother. And the only reason that I personally believe someone would do this is if there was some serious risk of something. And I don't think that this is actually going to stop those abortions. I think they're just going to have to go out of state or do it in a much more dangerous underground environment.
That is, if you were in the category of people considering an abortion after 22 weeks, something desperate is going on.
Yeah.
This is not like a casual decision for you. And you are probably going to go seek out an abortion however you can get that. And not having legal access to abortion is actually dangerous.
Yeah, I think this is a super serious decision. This isn't like a morning after pill. I think we got a question in the audience.
I have a question.
Oh, okay.
So who are the people who are really likely to be affected by this then?
Who are the people who are likely to be affected?
If people are going to other states to get abortion after 22 weeks, who are the people that
people who can't afford, so people who want an abortion after 22 weeks, maybe their life isn't in danger.
Oh, let's repeat the question. I think the question is really good.
Okay, good.
The question was, well, if you can go across the border and get an abortion after 22 weeks, well then, why would this affect anyone at all? And you were about to answer that question.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a narrow category of people, but there are people who would want to get an abortion after 22 weeks, and they could include some of the categories that we talked about before. A baby that was going to be born without the necessary organs to survive, a mother who... But
no, the point was that the only people that would still not have the abortion are those who can't afford to travel across state lines.
Yeah, they can't. Well, that's a good point. I mean, I was getting there. But
okay.
Yeah, which is so. There's this category of people who would do it. There are some people who can't afford to just go travel across state lines to get this abortion. So they would be caught between one, doing this abortion illegally in some cheaper manner inside the state, right? And that's a very dangerous thing to do. Or two, not having the abortion and bringing a baby to term that would hurt them, or maybe the baby would be born in some way that the baby wouldn't be able to survive, for example.
Yeah. I'm a no. I respect I respect the people who have a moral view of the world that believes that abortion is wrong, and this is their way of rectifying that. I respect that view. I just disagree with it. Russell, how are you going to vote on this?
I'm a hard no on this, and I think generally restricting abortion is the government interfering in something that they shouldn't be interfering in. So that is, what happens inside of a woman's body is her business. It's not really the government's business. Remember, this isn't about saying the state shouldn't fund abortions after 22 weeks or something. This is saying it will actually be illegal. That is, the government is going to know, by nature of enforcing this law, going to try to figure out what's going on inside people's body and how far along they were when they had abortions, and that is just really not any of the government's business. And I think if you open the door to 22-week abortion bans, all that will happen is the same people who are pushing this 22-week abortion ban, they'll come back next year with a 20-week abortion ban. And if we pass that, then it'll be an 18-week abortion ban.
Mm-hmm.
So.
And we didn't really even cover the Fourth Amendment issue, but you get the point. We're both
and we have a great YouTube video on this too,
yeah,
with a lot more. So check it out. 2 Guys, 1 Ballot on YouTube. All right, so let's go ahead and I'll operate paper because I know how to do that. And next up we have Proposition 1. What does that say? 16? 116. Income tax reduction. It's
actually 115 according to what they see. Oh no, see it says it's
Sasha.
My bad. It's 116.
Sasha doesn't just trust
this
the
paper.
Just trust the system. You ever heard of paper before?
Paper good.
Okay, so 116, it's going to reduce the state income tax all the way from 4.63% to, 4.51%? Something like that.
Yeah.
It's a tiny reduction in the state income tax. Sasha, tell us about it.
It'll cost the state like $200 million to get rid of this Drop the income tax rate.
But hang on, the taxpayers will benefit. How much is the average benefit to a taxpayer?
It's like $15.
So this bill, this bill is going to we're all going to save $15 on average on our taxes, and the government's not going to have $200 million in tax revenue. I think the history on this is this was put on the ballot by people who were concerned that there would be an income tax increase on the ballot, and they wanted to put this on as a counter proposal. That's how this got on the ballot, because it's such a small, like $15 per person. Like nobody was highly motivated to put that on the ballot.
It was a tit for tat, but the other measure didn't get enough signatures to get on the ballot. So now we just have this this cut proposed. You know, I hear you, tax cutters, but I don't think this one's gonna. No, I'm a no on this one.
I heard a defense passed to me from a third party, from a high-ranking Colorado public official that said, this will give people more money in the time of COVID. But it's $15 per person, so I don't know what that person is thinking. All right, so keep moving?
Let's keep moving.
All right, I see vote no. Okay.
Just a reminder to speak up, guys.
All right, we'll speak up. We'll be loud. Next up, an exciting topic. It's a Tabor measure. Oh, geez Louise. Okay, Tabor, as you might remember, this is Proposition 117. Tabor says the government can't increase tax revenue. Hi, buddy. The government can't increase taxes over a certain amount without getting voter approval, okay? But what it doesn't talk about is government businesses called state enterprises. So that could be like the Park Service or what else?
Fees, any fees.
Well, what was another good example?
The petroleum storage.
The petroleum storage. The government charges money for a service that it provides, like a business, and then it does the service. That doesn't count towards the government limit on tax revenue, right?
Yeah, and so I don't think we should go too deep on the nuance, but there was a thing that looked like a fee, but it was actually a tax, and that was this hospital provider fee.
So basically the government decided to move revenue that had been considered in like the tax bucket over to a new enterprise, a government business called for hospitals. But there really wasn't a business there. They were just sort of like moving money around to get their ability to charge more tax.
It was pretty clever.
It was clever.
But this is the consequence. Now people have said, okay, if you want to approve a giant new fee into a new enterprise owned by the government, then you need to get voter approval.
That's right. If it's over $100 million, right?
Over $100 million.
So basically this is saying close the loophole where the government can make a new government business that would charge like a bunch of money and raise $100 million in tax revenue, but it's not taxes, it's government fees. It's saying to close that loophole. Hey, Sasha, I got a question for you though. Isn't it totally conceivable that the government could have new government enterprises that are legitimate and just shouldn't require voter approval?
Theoretically, like you can imagine the state of Colorado opens up a giant laser tag arena.
Oh, hang on, but real talk. What if they opened up a giant, wireless internet business? They got a contract with some giant satellite provider who was going to beam the whole state of Colorado internet, and the government was going to put that on as a government enterprise and subsidize it for the taxpayers. Should that be that would be conceivable, right?
That would be conceivable.
And so the question is, should that require taxpayer approval?
That is the question.
Okay, so sum it up. So how do you vote on? How would you vote on?
I don't know, man. I'm stuck on this one. What? Do you have a position? Do you have a strong position?
It's not that strong, but I think the answer is no, and I would vote no. And the reason is, I just generally think that the government should have more flexibility in terms of its operations. If the government wants to start a new business, a government business, the municipal broadband business in Denver, for example, and it's otherwise approved, it's already approved for whatever it needs to be approved in terms of the governance, the city charter, whatever else, I don't think we need to get statewide voter approval again on a new government business.
Yeah, I think that this is the wrong fix for the problem. The move by putting that hospital provider fee into an enterprise, that was a dirty move, and whoever did it shouldn't have done it. But I think that there's easier ways of getting people to, of there being a bar set for what is a fee versus what is a tax. And I don't want a 12-page ballot sent to me next year because so I just decided I'm a no because I don't think these things should be up to voters. Voters aren't qualified to evaluate businesses. Even if the hospital provider fee was here, I don't know that I would understand it well enough to like tell you how to vote on it.
Just think about how complicated this one is. I mean, we have a great video on this. Check it out on our YouTube channel. 2 guys, 1 ballot. We have a deep dive video on this exact topic. It takes a lot of brain power to get through it, and it's not clear to me that the voters are the right people to decide whether this is the right measure or not. Right? Flip it, flip it, flip it.
How are you going to vote on this one?
I'm voting no.
I'm voting no, and I learned how to do the paper.
All right, good for you. We're up on Proposition 18. This is paid medical and family leave.
This is going to create a payroll tax that's paid half by employers, half by employees. The proceeds of that tax will create a new bureaucracy to administer paid family leave.
Basically, it'll be like an insurance entity almost, right? Run by the government, that if you take leave for a number of reasons that we'll get into in a minute, that entity will pay out money to you so you can be somewhat paid during your leave time, right?
Yeah, so there's a federal law that says employers are required to give up to, minimum 12 weeks paid family leave. So if you give birth to a child, I don't know, there's a handful of categories.
Stuff.
That's the important one.
Yeah.
You can't get fired from your job for 12 weeks.
Right.
But it doesn't require that you get paid. So
meaning you could probably take the time off. You could probably take 10 weeks off, 12 weeks off work.
Yes.
If you have a baby under federal law and they can't fire you, but that doesn't mean that the work has to pay you.
That's right. Now you would get paid by this insurance scheme that the state of Colorado would run. It's a 0.9% tax, is that right?
Yeah.
0.9%
And it can go up to, I think, 1.2% or something like that.
That's right. And the person receiving the money would get, what is it, like up to
$1,100.
$3,000 a week?
No, it's lower than that.
Oh yeah, $1,100 a week. I think you're right. Yeah, $1,100 a week. So the most you could get is $1,100 a week, but it's based on your income. So, you want to give us the pro or the con?
Yeah, I'll give you the pro. The pro is shit happens, right? So just setting aside pregnancy, shit just happens in life. You have medical bills that come up. You have a medical emergency that comes up. You get hit by a car. You get your very cute dog comes under your table and he bites you, and you might have to sit out work for a little while. And a lot of Coloradans don't have access to paid leave for medical reasons. So during that emergency time when you might be healing and trying to deal with everything else, all of a sudden you're also not getting a paycheck. And so why not set up a really modest tax? I mean, 0.9% of our income, that's really not that much. And by the way, your employer is going to pay half of it. Why not set up this modest tax to allow us to actually get paid while we go through these traumatic events? On top of that, it'll kick in when you have a new baby. Guess what? Like having a new baby, that requires your time and attention and also your physical time to heal if you're a mother. You need to have time off from work. And why take your income away? Why not just set up a state fund?
Are they paying you?
Who paying?
These people.
No.
Why you're just like what? You just go on and on. Like,
okay,
come on.
But that's the point. The point is, why should you give up your money? Why don't we all just put our money in a pool? 0.9% of our money in a little pool, and then we'll all take it when we need it. Sasha, go ahead, shoot that down. Shoot that down, Scrooge. No Christmas for Timmy this year, huh? Because his mom had a baby?
No, that's not the case. I like, I'm actually a supporter of universal basic income. I think that Timmy should have Christmas to be
or Hanukkah,
or whatever Timmy likes. I think he should get that present. This is creating a bureaucracy The state's going to have to employ 200 people to administer it. Critics of this say that they've vastly underestimated the amount the program will cost because they've underestimated the amount of participation it will take. States that have implemented similar programs, it's cost them double.
No, that's not true.
No? How much was it?
Other states have actually come in about budget or under budget. The thing is, ours has a much wider category of coverable events.
I see. So ours has a particularly critical flaw, which is that family is defined as like anyone.
A significant bond. So if someone in your family has like a serious medical issue, like if Sasha gets wild and decides he wants to stage dive off of the stage during a Rocket Surgeons concert and he hurts himself, well, I have a very strong, significant bond with Sasha. So in theory, I could be able to argue that I should get paid time off of work to care for Sasha.
Yeah, and we don't know exactly why it happened, but the governor's office basically rejected this proposal, and that's why it ended up here, because a Democratic-controlled House, a Democratic-controlled Senate, and a Democratic-controlled governor's office didn't want to pass this.
Yeah, so it's coming through the voters because the legislature couldn't put it through the regular way.
I think that they couldn't pass it for a good reason. It's bad legislation.
Yeah.
Not because we don't want to do paid family leave. It's just bad policy. But
I don't get it. If that's really the reason, I've heard that before. If that's really the reason, why didn't they just put through a better version of this?
I don't know.
So like, and that sort of like leads me to like sometimes taxpayers, voters do have to take things into their own hand and set up systems that they need. If the legislature can't focus on what the people actually need, maybe this is exactly what our system is for.
So my position on this is no, because it creates another dependency-like welfare program, whereas I would prefer a program where if you're out of work for a certain period of time, you just get a check, and it doesn't matter if someone got sick, it doesn't matter if you're sick, it doesn't matter if you're just tired for a little bit, and once every few years you need to take some time off. I'm for that kind of program. I'm not for creating another welfare type of program.
I'm a yes on this just because I think that it's better to put something in place like this, so that people have something to rely on if they have like they get in a car accident or they have some bad thing that happens to them, so that we're not just kicking their legs out from underneath them and taking their money away. At least they have something to fall back on from the state. So I'm a yes on this, but I also recognize it's flawed, and I hope that the legislature would reform it after it's passed.
Can it? Since it's...
I think so, but I don't know. It's a great question.
Is that normal?
Is what normal? For the legislature to reform things that are passed by citizens?
After it's passed.
Great question. We'll answer that on our YouTube channel.
Yeah.
All right. Keep flipping. We gotta pick it up. Here. Oh, so that's actually, we just finished all the state.
You're done. If you don't live in Denver,
you're done.
Get out of here.
Get off the channel. No, but thank you for watching. Seriously, thank you for your questions. Thank you for your comments. Check out our YouTube channel, 2guys1ballot.com. That has all the state issues on it. But now we are going to transition to the very exciting City of Denver issues. Starting right off out of the gate, we have 2 sales tax issues. Let's just can we just get the broad stuff out of the way real quick? Which is, 1, what is the sales tax in Denver now? And 2, why does Russell hate sales taxes?
8.31% is the sales tax today, which is, it's like moderate for cities of our size, but...
about on par with the state.
Yeah, it's on par. Texas, in Austin, has lower tax rate by 2%, Chicago higher.
Yeah, exactly.
So
that's exactly right.
We're okay, we're competitive. Russell doesn't like sales taxes because they are regressive. This means that poor people, as a percentage of their income, pay more than wealthy people as a percentage of their income, even though we're all paying the same dollar amount on what's being consumed.
That's right. If it's a tax of 10% on the money that you spend, well, people who save and invest a bunch of their money, they don't pay that tax. But people who have to spend all that money month after month, they ultimately do pay that tax. And so it means that people who are living paycheck to paycheck just pay higher taxes than wealthy people.
Pay a higher tax rate of their income, not higher taxes.
Pay a higher tax rate. Well, what would you call higher taxes?
Do you hate the climate?
Okay, let's ding, ding, ding. Let's dig into everything else about this. So by the way, I'm a no on it for the reasons that we just discussed. But let's get into what these things are. Denver Measure 2A.
Climate change. Have you heard of it? It's a thing.
Yeah.
An inconvenient truth.
That's what I do with the Nest, right? When I twist the dial.
That's right.
Different climate change. Okay, this is climate change like the world is fucking having a real problem with global warming and a bunch of other stuff, if you haven't noticed. And I think that climate change is real. And Sasha, do you think climate change is real?
We think climate change is real.
I think even Donald Trump at this point thinks climate change is real. He probably disagrees with a lot of people about, including most scientists, about why climate change is happening, but everybody agrees that climate change is real. So this measure says, City of Denver, time for us to step up and do our part to combat climate change. We're gonna increase our sales tax by 0.25%. So that's $25 on every $10. No, $25 on every $1,000 spent.
$25 on a $10. Yes.
Fuck off. It's not Soviet Russia.
$25 on a $1,000 purchase, and it'll raise a total of $40 million for the city of Denver.
That's right. And what is it going to do?
What won't it do, Russell?
What won't it do? Well, it won't save the world from climate change.
They can spend the money on whatever.
On bike lanes and solar power stuff and
job
solar
training.
Panels, job training around climate change. They can do all sorts of good stuff with this money. They can do good stuff with this money.
Yeah.
Yeah, electric vehicle charging stations. If you have a Tesla, you're probably pumped.
They could do, but will they?
Will they? I don't know. So that's kind of where this comes down to. The city of Denver, it's going to raise $40 million to combat climate change. We obviously, all of us with brains, know that the city of Denver is not going to defeat climate change. At the same time, maybe they're going to do a bunch of good stuff with this. That will, one, have symbolic leadership for the city, right? Will be a symbol of combating climate change. And two, maybe it's going to create a bunch of jobs and do good stuff for the city. A few years ago, Sasha, you were all about creating electric vehicle, like Cars 2.0 infrastructure in the city and state. You wanted stuff to help cars drive themselves. You were all for electric vehicle stuff. You were, like, a few years ago, you were all about this. Are you still for this now?
He said he's no. I'm also a no. I don't know why he's trying to tell you I'm a yes. I've never been for a sales tax like this.
Okay, so we're both no on this because for me, the city level is not the right level to do this. If this was a national measure, get America back into the Paris Accords or set up the New York Accords to re-get the world on the same page about climate change so we could make a global impact, or get the WTO focused on climate change.
How about this? A climate change compact that all the states sign on to.
There you go. Climate change compact. I'd be for that. But the city of Denver single-handedly fighting climate change, it doesn't make any sense. And also, this tax is paid mostly by working class people. You're no too, right?
I'm a no.
Okay. All right. But we have another sales tax. This one is about Denver's efforts to combat homelessness. It's the same amount. Okay. So it's $25 on every $1,000 purchase. And it'll raise $40 million per year. And this money will be used to create housing for homeless people and also services for people experiencing homelessness and everything in between. Sasha, what do you think about this mission?
This has a huge problem. As a Denverite, I believe that we provide so many services for the homeless that homeless from the region come to Denver.
Well, before you dig into the nuanced argument, let's just talk about where you previously were on this, which is it's obvious to all of us in Denver that we have a real problem with homelessness, right?
We have a real problem with homelessness. And, to be honest, I started as a yes on this.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people are a yes on this for a very good reason, which is they're just looking around the city and they're seeing the price of living here skyrocketing. They're seeing more and more homeless people experiencing homelessness out on the street and in our alleys and on our sidewalks. And they're like, what is going on? Like, it's getting harder to actually be able to afford to live in Colorado and in Denver. And at the same time, I'm seeing more and more people experiencing homelessness. Isn't it time for us to step up and do something about that? And that's why a lot of people are a yes on this, right?
Here's the thing: is we can solve homelessness for Denver. The problem is that we can't solve homelessness for Denver and Commerce City or Denver and Centennial and Colorado Springs in Denver.
Meaning us as Denver adopting this measure at the Denver level doesn't address the statewide problem with homelessness.
I would be 100% for a Colorado sales tax that accomplishes the exact same things, and I would even be for a larger tax than what this is proposing to support people who are experiencing homelessness.
All over the state.
All over the state, not just in Denver.
Which would actually make a real impact.
That's right.
But what our concern is that by basically continuing to fund more and more housing and services programs in Denver, what we're doing is creating incentive for people from all over the state who are already struggling to come to Colorado because they can get services here. Now, or to come to Denver.
Well, I would argue from the region.
From the region.
If you're in Laramie, Wyoming, you may want to come down to Denver for services right now.
But this isn't us faulting those people.
No.
Not at all. I mean, like, honestly, if I was experiencing homelessness in Cheyenne, I would probably think about how I could get to Denver.
For sure. Why? Why wouldn't you?
Because
you'd be foolish not to.
You'd be foolish not to, and you're probably in a really desperate situation, especially if you have, like, kids or
100%.
something like that. You're just trying to do anything to make it work. So is it the right thing for the city to just continue expanding these services when we know that actually this is like a problem that exists way bigger than Denver? This is not a Denver problem. This is like a state problem. And what we're basically doing by increasing the services in Denver without building partnership regionally, statewide, maybe even outside of the state, is saying, like, why don't you guys come to Denver? We'll take care of you here.
Now, this isn't just our hunch on this. There is some science behind this. Can you talk to them about the studies?
So there's great studies that have been done in a lot of the cities that have the biggest issues on homelessness. So like Los Angeles and California, where they talk to the people who are experiencing homelessness there, and they say, where was the last zip code where you were registered? So before you didn't have a home, what was the last zip code that you had a home in? And a plurality of the people interviewed there, they are not from Los Angeles County. They're coming from places outside of the county within the state, meaning that people do move within their own states. When they experience homelessness, they go to the places that have the services. And so, do we want to create the same situation in Denver? I think the answer is no, and so I'm a no vote on this.
I'm also a no vote on this. Again, I want to emphasize, I think that we need to be doing more to support the homeless in Colorado.
Yes.
But this is bad policy for the city of Denver.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. Moving on, we have 2C, 2E, 2G. This is a 3-for-1 special.
A hat trick!
A hat trick.
Ballot.
We can sum all of these up by saying to you guys that this is about the city council fighting the mayor's office for power. Right now.
Go on. If you need more sound effects, let me know.
How about a silent sound effect? Can I get that for 60 seconds? All right. So the city right now, the way that our city charter works, most of the power is vested in the mayor. The mayor has a lot of power versus city council. And
what can the mayor do that these people don't like?
Well, there's 3 things that are contained in these measures. One is they need the mayor's approval to move money around within the city's budget. 2 is they need the mayor's approval at city council to hire their own professional advisors. So if they want their own lawyers to look at things, not the city's lawyers, they want city council's lawyers, they want to hire new lawyers to do that, they need the mayor's approval. And the 3rd is if the mayor wants to appoint high positions within the city, including like the chief of police, sheriff's office, other high-ranking officials, the city manager, right?
The park service manager,
park guy, all of those appointments, the mayor can do them by himself without city council. So what city council wants in these 3 measures is, 1, they want to be able to decide with the manager of finance. If they can get the manager of finance to agree to move money around within the budget, within the city, they want to be able to do that without the mayor signing off, right? 2 is they want to be able to get their own lawyers. So, for example, there was this DIA contract that blew up. It was a big deal. And city council has been saying, hey, how come we couldn't just hire our own advisors to advise us on that contract? Why did we have to rely on the mayor's people? Also, the mayor had a scandal. Sexting. I'm not, mayor, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. But the truth is there was a scandal. You shouldn't have been texting that stuff. Sorry, bud. And, the city council is saying we want to get our own lawyers involved. Okay, so that's 2. And 3 is they're saying, like, whoever the mayor is appointing to run stuff in the city, we should be able to approve that, just like the way that the Senate approves, Supreme Court justices or something like that.
So, if you think the Parks guy is equal to the Supreme Court justice, then you're a yes on this. Russell, do you have a strong view on this?
I don't have a strong view on it, but I think that like when Denver was a smaller town, the idea of having like 2 levels of checks on like appointing the chief of police, that was kind of absurd because we just weren't a big enough city to sort of warrant that. But we're over 500,000 people now. We're getting towards 1 million. Denver's going to continue growing. It's going to be a bigger and bigger city. On the whole, am I okay with having more checks in place in case we get, what if we do have like a radical mayor? Wouldn't we want city council to be able to exercise some control? Yeah,
so today we have a radical city council member or two, right?
Yeah, the city council is farther left in Denver. You love it or hate it, we have a populist left controlled city council right now in Denver.
What do you mean by like a Trump left?
Like the equivalent of Trump on the left city council in Denver. And they have done some stuff that has made people like me and Sasha, who are centrists. Would you describe yourself as a centrist?
Center left.
Center left. Like just a little bit like queasy about like what the heck is going on at city council. So that could include like demanding that the governor stop all evictions in the state, right?
Yeah.
And what else has city council done?
Well, they shut down the private prisons with no notice.
Yeah, and
by private jails.
But by private prisons, that included like a bunch of halfway houses that were doing really good, important rehabilitation work. Because on principle they hated private prisons, so they got rid of these contracts that actually were doing a lot of good things for the city.
And then, but the city had nowhere else to put these people, so then they had to rehire them.
Rehire them, rejail them.
Oh! I think someone went back to jail and they did new contracts.
I see.
It was really bad.
It was bad, and it was like people doing stuff that like was gonna look really good for Twitter, but wasn't really actually gonna improve policy in the city. And so part of the reason that I think Sasha has hesitation on saying vote yes on these measures that include these extra checks on what the mayor does is he's concerned that city council is kind of out of control.
They're out of control, and they're going to block the mayor from being able to run the city, basically. It's important. Like, mayor does really important stuff in Denver.
Yeah. So, look, if I had to vote on this today, which I guess I do, I'd say yes, I'm okay with giving more checks and balances to city council over the mayor. But I am a little bit worried that our city council is going to obstruct the mayor doing a good job of running the city.
Yeah, I could go yes, like it wouldn't be the worst thing, but I'm going to vote no on this. I don't think there's really a strong track record anywhere of city councils being all that productive. I don't see...
Meaning like city council is not the Senate. City council is closer to student council.
Yeah. I think it's just too easy to be territorial and literally represent your neighborhood rather than think about the city as a whole.
Yeah.
And you kind of see that right now with this homelessness shelter question, where we need to put a homeless shelter somewhere. And city council can't figure out where because everybody's looking out for their neighborhood. So you need a strong mayor to say, well, that's a bad place, that's a good place. We need to put it in that place even though it might not be the best thing for that neighborhood.
All right, so I say vote yes.
I'm going to vote no on this.
On these three. 2C,
2C, 2...
Go ahead.
On 3. 1, 2, 3. 2C, 2E, 2G.
All right.
Wrong way.
Wrong way.
Oh, who doesn't know paper now, idiot?
So embarrassed.
What is this, Doty?
Dottie. Denver Transportation.
Yes.
Department of Transportation. So this is really simple. I think we can do this one quick because these people must be tired because I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
This is saying, should we create a community advisory board for the Department of Transportation in Denver? That is, we have a Denver transportation czar who makes all the decisions about transportation. Should we have some community advisors to advise him, not control him, advise him on what might be good for the community? The answer is yes.
Yep.
Okay. Sasha, you want to be on that board, right?
Only so we don't fix potholes in on Russell Street.
Well, but the wolves are going to create a bunch of new potholes.
Yeah. Those bear holes in the streets.
Alright, this is another easy one. This one is 2F. This is basically saying our city charter has a bunch of old language in it. Can we just replace that old language with like modern language for modern human beings to understand? I think the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's like if the city charter says something about sending documents via Pony Express,
Right.
we can update that to just say email.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
We're a yes on this.
Yeah, yes on this. I thought you were going to say
2F.
public announcements by TikTok or something like that.
Yeah.
All right. 2H. This one's a little spicy. Sasha, you want to tell them about 2H?
Right now, it's illegal for a municipality to create its own broadband service. Why is it illegal?
Comcast has a lot of money?
I think there's some real reason to it.
Like what?
Because they're required to lay lines in places by the government, so you
Okay.
can't have the government competing with them in places where the government's requiring they do work where they don't want to do work.
Okay.
Alright, so that's a thing. And so there's a group of people that says, we should put up our own internet in the city of Denver.
But there's still like more than, it's some absurd number. It's more than 10% of the city of Denver doesn't have access to high-speed internet.
That's not true.
That's in the, yeah, that's true. I'm going to look that up while you go ahead.
Prove it in the comments if you think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. I haven't been anywhere in the city of Denver where I didn't have 4G LTE.
Yeah, because that's not the places you go, Sasha.
No, I'm all over in the city.
Okay, keep going.
That's not true at all. I love every part of the city. Okay, so this will allow the city to create its own broadband service, and there's a lot of people who want this. So they want more competition for CenturyLink and Comcast. Why? Because who likes CenturyLink and Comcast? Nobody.
Not even Obi.
Obi, Russell's dog, fucking hates CenturyLink. He bit the guy that came here.
No. Okay, keep it going for the people.
Okay. So it's kind of obvious why people would want this. Why wouldn't people want this? I guess I'm just doing both parts of this since Russell's like on Facebook
Keep going.
doing whatever right
Keep
now.
going.
I think it's a bad idea. Do you want to say the pro? Do you want to help with this?
I think the pro is there's a bunch of people who don't have access to high-speed internet, and why can't the city provide that for them?
That's it?
Does it need to be that more complicated? 16% of Denver households are without high-speed internet,
According to...
a recent census from the city.
Okay, here's why I think it's a bad idea. This is going to be like fast tracks. They're gonna come up with a plan. They're going to get this approved, and then it's going to take them years longer to come up with a plan. And then it's going to take them like 10 or 15 years to build out this internet service. And by then, I'm going to live on Mars.
Okay. There's already 100 municipalities that have opted out of our 2005. Basically, there was a law in 2005 that said you can't have broadband offered by your municipality, but you can opt out. So there's already been 100 municipalities that have opted out. I want Denver to join that. The city can make a decision. Does it make sense for us to offer broadband to the 16% of people who don't have it? If they say yes, then I think we should offer that broadband to them. I don't understand how this is so controversial.
I agree. I was just doing a really good job debating both sides.
Okay, I'm a yes on this.
I'm a yes too.
All right, moving on.
Stop
No! Oh my God, we have 2 left. All right, can the county 2I measure 2I? Can the county clerk and reporter have 4 new employees that won't have any budget impact on the office? What this basically is saying is, instead of having mayoral appointees to run the department within the clerk and recorder's office, can the clerk and recorder have its own employees run those departments? That's basically what this is saying. And I say yes.
I'm a yes.
Fine.
2I, yes.
All right, good. Okay. Oh my gosh, we saved the most contentious topic for last. Thanks. Oh, but are we going to do the other? Okay, anyway, pit bulls. This topic is pit bulls. So Denver right now, the city of Denver, it's been like for 40 years or something. The city of Denver has had a pit bull ban. And now the question is, should we be able to lift the pit bull ban a little bit? The way that this would work is, if you want to have a pit bull, you can apply to the city for a special pit bull license. The city will give you the license, and you're on pit bull probation for 3 years, where if there's any incidents with your pit bull, your license gets pulled, the dog's can't be in Denver anymore. if you go 3 years without an incident, your pet becomes like granted pet status, and you can keep your pit bull now.
It's like an immigration program for pit bulls.
It's like an immigration. It is like an immigration. Now, I'm a dog lover, and I also love pit bulls. I love them so much. I think they're so sweet. But I was definitely reluctant to say yes on this because I am concerned about how people feel about pit bulls and they think that they're dangerous. The research that I've done on pit bulls, I have to say, it has not convinced me that pit bulls are any more dangerous than any other kind of dog, especially other big aggressive dog breeds like German Shepherds and other dogs that are legal. I think they're just as dangerous as pit bulls, if not more. And you know who loves dogs really a lot is the Denver Dumb Friends League people. And they run animal shelters and programs for dogs, and they are a big yes on this. They're one of the main supporters of having this limited pit bull allowance.
They are. Why?
Because they probably have their own views on what dogs are dangerous. They don't think pit bulls are that dangerous, and they think that they should be able to be adopted in the city. These are the kind of people who, if the pit bulls were going to go out there and harm dogs, they would be very concerned about that.
Oh, what do I do? I don't know. I feel like if 2 people get bit and traumatized by a pit bull,
that's too many.
I mean, like, do we want that?
Okay, but so then what's next? We're gonna if they put a German Shepherd ban on the thing, grandfather in the current ones, but no more Shepherds after this year. Would you vote for that?
Maybe we would evaluate that. If someone made an argument that German Shepherds have traumatized me and I've been bit by them, and we wanted maybe everybody should just have cute, fluffy dogs like I do. He's harmless.
Baby, can you let Obi out so I can just do a little show and tell? Sasha has a cute, fluffy dog. His name is Teddy.
Yeah.
Obi, come here. Let me show you guys Obi. Obi, come here, buddy.
What are you trying to do here?
I'm just giving you a demo how vicious pit bulls are. This is Obi. He's 40% pit. We did a doggy DNA test with him. He's a very sweet dog, and I love him. He plays nice with Teddy. Now, why would we ban dogs like this?
We wouldn't.
10% more.
Oh, really?
10% more. He would be over the line for pit.
Oh, so he's legal.
He's legal because he's at 40%, not 50.
Okay, but he's legal.
He's legal. Barely legal. Barely
But
legal
also,
dogs.
we foster dogs that don't get the luxury of getting the DNA test. And someone at the shelter says,
John and I foster dogs. We've fostered over 25 dogs now, and we've had a number of pit puppies. You can have pits when they're puppies, and we tried to adopt one of them. It didn't pass the breed evaluation because they said the dog was too much pit, and this dog was so sweet and ridiculous and wonderful, and I couldn't believe that this dog didn't pass the breed evaluation.
I think it's just a matter of what the breed evaluation process is, right?
That's right. Also, when they do the breed evaluations to determine what's a pit bull, they're not doing doggy DNA tests. It's just a person looking at the dog and saying this dog is a pit or not. So my point is, it's already arbitrary.
I think what he's trying to say, you vote yes on this if you hate puppies, or no on this, right? Is that where you're going?
Vote yes on this if you love puppies. Vote yes on this if you love puppies.
Yeah, I don't know. If we have 20, this is kind of a philosophical argument. The reality is there's hundreds of people, if not thousands, in the city of Denver that have been traumatized, and they claim by pit bulls. So, do the rights of pit bulls outweigh the rights of those people?
No. It's not about the rights of pit bulls. It's the rights of people who want to have pit bulls. Do those rights outweigh the rights of people who say that they've been traumatized by pit bulls? But, Sasha, like I said, there's people who have been traumatized by German Shepherds. I have friends who have scars from cats clawing them when they were children.
Great, let's ban cats.
Okay, we can all agree we should ban cats.
Everybody knows this.
Okay, so forget pit bulls, let's bit now. But in seriousness, I think that we carry around the biases of whatever happened to us. There's a narrative about pit bulls, and that leads us to say pit bulls are bad, but the truth is there's not anything better or worse about pit bulls than all other animals.
Well, let me ask you this. Obi passed the breed test. Was that much more harmful to you to get a sub 50% pit?
No.
So then, if it's so easy for you, why would you traumatize?
But it wasn't so easy for me. When you asked, so we're gonna get into it. We had a foster. Her name was Cora, and I loved her. And I cried when we couldn't get Cora for a dog, and it was hard for me. And she didn't pass because she didn't pass the breed evaluation. And I didn't get to have my fucking dog, Sasha, because of you. Look, this isn't saying open the lid, unlimited pit bulls. This is saying, like, let's try it out for a few years. Let's just, like,
but then what? Then you're going to have thousands of pit bulls.
Yeah, and if it goes fine for 3 years, then maybe there's not a problem after all. We'll actually have data now after 3 years. We'll know.
Because dogs don't bite people after 3 years?
No. Because within 3 years, if there haven't been that many pit bull incidents as compared to all the other dog breeds that we could look at, then we will actually know whether there's been a problem or not.
I will vote.
This is like a tryout for pit bulls.
I will vote yes on this if you vote yes on the tobacco bill.
Oh, no! Okay, that's a deal.
Okay. All right, folks, that's how it gets done.
All right. We don't have a slide for this one, but the last two measures that we're voting on are the Denver measures 4A and 4B. Is that right?
What are they?
Those are the DPS funding ones.
Oh, no!
Lord, this ballot has been a slog to get through.
These two are long. They take up a whole back page.
Oh, you have it? So the first one's the mill levy, right?
4A will increase property taxes by 4 mils. I don't know what that thing means, but increase property taxes by 32 million for 2021.
So basically, this is saying our property taxes are going to go up a slight amount. I think it's like $150 per $100,000. That's how much it is. And per $100,000 of value, your property taxes will go up $150, and that money will fund DPS, right?
Specifically, they would like to increase minimum wages for support staff, add mental health professionals, add nurses, and add cost of living funds to pay educators a living wage, and then.
So would it be fair to say this is the kind of thing that would interest you if you think that there should be more mental health support for students in schools, and if you think people working in schools should be paid more?
Yeah.
That's what this is. That's what this is as a summary. And it's $150 per $100,000 in real property value.
I'll do it. I'm yes.
I'm a yes. Okay. Next up, we have the bond, 4B, right?
4B. This is not a new tax. It's a lot more debt. So this allows Denver Public Schools to increase debt somewhere between $795 million. Increase the debt today by $795 million with a max repayment of $1.5 billion.
So basically it's saying, can the schools borrow? They own a bunch of real property now. Can they borrow? They have these assets now. Can they borrow more money? And this money is mostly used to maintain the assets, right? This is to maintain real property?
Yeah, but I don't think they're borrowing against the assets. They're just saying, we already have tax authorization that would allow us to make the debt service.
Okay.
So you just need to authorize us to borrow.
Okay. So we're authorizing them to borrow.
Yeah, so they're saying, these are the things, the purposes. Maintaining, renovating buildings. Providing cooling systems for high-temp classrooms. Add new schools, purchase computers, improve stuff, and improve safety, and more stuff.
So, like, funding for schools.
It's funding for schools.
So, but basically what we shouldn't lose sight of is, this is not them saying they'll tax you. This is the school saying that they'll borrow money, right? But ultimately, if they borrow it, there's interest on it, and that gets paid by the taxpayers, right?
Yeah, I mean, their cost of borrowing is super cheap, but this is probably going to be like a 20-year bond. So you borrow $800 million, we're going to repay $1.5 billion.
So what I would say is all the education groups in the state are for this. Even some of the ones that are normally not like so pro funding measures, they're for all the education groups that I know are for these measures. I'd say the people who are against them are the people who are just generally anti-tax and think that if the schools need more money, they should find it through efficiency rather than find it through taxing. I'm a yes on these, but I do think that as a city, we should open up dialogues over the next few years about finding more efficiency in our school budgets. And I think that's an important thing for us to do. I don't think that's something we should just give lip service to. I think we should actively be looking for efficiency in our school budgets.
Yeah, I'm a yes on these, but the reality is that the math looks really bad for DPS. We spend a lot of money, and we're not getting great outcomes here. So the idea that we're just going to spend more money and something's going to happen, I'm pretty skeptical of at this point.
All right. So we say yes on 4A and yes on 4B. That wraps up the show, guys. There is a lot more great, helpful, interesting detail on our YouTube channel, 2guys1ballot.com. And by the way, if you're watching, .com, sorry, our YouTube channel, 2guys1ballot, just search it on YouTube. We'll put a link below. If you're watching this later and you have questions, don't feel shy. Go ahead and write those questions in the comment box. We will respond to them.
We'll respond if you're a subscriber on YouTube. So give me your YouTube handle, and I will check, and then I might answer.
Oh Lord! But anyway, but definitely check us out on YouTube. 2 Guys, 1 Ballot. I think that's it.
Happy voting, everybody.
Happy voting! Good luck with all this.